Hello to everyone and welcome to Energy Capital News. I'm Ana Tafoya and today I'll be talking with Marco Cota, CEO of Talanza Energy and founding partner of Eminent. Marco will talk with us about the importance of methane emissions detection, regulation, and remediation, and how these actions could translate into economic benefits for both public and private sectors. What do companies mean when they say they are willing to go net zero? And how can financial institutions and businesses themselves measure this?
This is a recent concept from the last years, and it is more focused in the impact in emissions, but it is the net impact. It is not the gross impact. It is not how much emissions, how many emissions do I have from my activities in any sector, construction, financial sector. I will talk a little bit about the financial sector, but for the oil and gas is quite clear. Everybody really knows that the oil and gas sector is, by nature, is a sector that produces emissions, right? CO2 or methane, that they are less well known. The methane emissions are pure natural gas emissions, right? So this is the importance of focusing in oil and gas. And the methane has an 84 times the effect on global warming than CO2. But the particularity of the methane is that methane has a shorter lifespan. What do that means? It means that in 12 years, the methane that it is now liberated is no longer in the atmosphere, right? But it lasts for 12 months, for 12 years. So in these 12 years, there is an important impact. It is 84 times the impact of CO2. So the idea here is oil and gas companies produces emissions, CO2 and CH4. CH4 is a methane. For methane emissions and CO2, all emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, the idea of net zero is it has three different scopes, right? The scope one is all of those emissions that I generate when I'm producing my services. In the case of oil and gas, when I'm producing oil or gas, and of course all petroleum products. All this activity has a certain amount of emissions. This is pretty clear. This is how much how much are my emissions now. After that, the other concept for doing the net or the balance is how much of these emissions I'm taking out of the atmosphere, right? And for this is not a clear concept, or at least as wide as known as the first one, right? Because you can do a reduction of methane emissions, for instance, of fugitive emissions. Fugitive emissions, these are mainly leaks in the facilities, in the oil and gas facilities. The reduction in emissions, in fugitive emissions, are considered as these positive emissions for the net zero balance, right? They are going to counterbalance or neutralize the emissions that the producers are producing as its operations imply, right? So this is why now financial institutions from some months ago, they are pushing for, they have also net zero goals in their operations. And how does that mean, or what does that mean? That means that financial institutions, they invest in projects, in infrastructure projects. So the portfolio of these financial institutions, for instance, the most popular case is BlackRock. its CEO, Larry Fink, has been saying that net zero is now here and it is going to stay here. The idea is that they, as financial sector, they are going to invest in portfolios that their participants have this balance also. So they are going to put more money in companies with renewable energies, for instance.
How could quantifying and repairing methane emissions translate into economic benefits?
It's quite straightforward. Methane emissions is practically natural gas. So as far as you reduce those emissions, this is directly proportionate to the economic benefits, because you are going to commercialize this gas or use this gas, utilize this gas in your facility, like generating power or in another processes. The idea is not to destroy the gas or even worse, just to vent the gas to the atmosphere, but it is to use the gas or market the gas. So this is mainly how it is translated. It's quite easily, as I was saying, for the oil and gas, the infrastructure is already there. Of course, there are going to be projects that they need to build infrastructure for commercializing this gas or using this gas, but they are good investments with important returns.
In this regard, Marco, could you tell us more about the financial benefits you have seen in return on investment and savings from implementing mandatory methane quantification and remediation at Eminent?
Eminent is a synergy between two companies, Infratech Corporation from Canada and Talanza Energy from Mexico and Houston. This synergy is very important because our Infratech, that it is one of the parent companies, Infratech has a very good success record of obtaining benefits from doing inspections, and we call it LDAR, leak detection and repair programs, for detecting the emissions and for repairing the emissions. So there are a lot of things to do, and as it is widely said, fugitive methane emissions is the low-hanging fruit, in the sense that it is very easy to detect. It is not expensive. The technology, it is not expensive for an industry as the oil and gas. And we have seen returns of investment of 4-5 times the cost of the inspection. Of course, it's going to depend. But for instance, for a very small facility, like one with just one compressor, we have return of investment of 60 or 70%. That means for each dollar that I put, I just recover $1 with 60 or 70 cents after I detect and repair, and the gas that I stop to leak or to lose, I'm going to use or market the gas. So we are talking about 60-70%. We are talking about a medium project. We have some cases of 4 times return of investment. That means for each $100 that I put in doing all of this process of the LDAR, I'm going to have a benefit of $400. I'm going to recover the $104. I'm going to obtain this $100 plus $400. And for a large facility also, we have 200-300% return on investment. So benefits are really, really important and relevant.
For the North American region, what are your forecasts regarding methane leak detection and repair commitments in terms of deviations and best practices?
We need to look at what is happening in Canada. In Canada, they had a timeline for implementing regulation, and now everybody's, because it is considered a serious offense, that means it is very enforceable, this regulation. Everybody is working there. So it is beautiful to see how there is like a new creation of companies offering these services, people getting jobs, activity, reducing emissions, bringing economic benefits for oil and gas companies. And of course, the most important, the impact on the environment, right? So it is. I should say the whole world should look at what is happening in Canada, because they are the pretty much or by far, this is the most advanced regulatory system that it is actually in place. In Mexico, although we published the regulation in the same time than Canada at the end of 2018, we haven't been able for starting regulating, right? So companies are now wondering what they need to do in order to be in full compliance. I mean, we are having a lot of presentations like business pitches and this kind of stuff with companies that we will thought in another moment they should be now complying, because the regulation said that by November 2019, everybody has to have the methane emission baseline, that it is the first quantification of your emission, and a 6-year plan that we call in Mexico PPCM, PPCIEM, that it is a plan for reducing and controlling emissions. And by February 2020, 1 year ago, all of these companies should have already their first LDAR. This is not happening in Mexico. Actually, the director of ASEA sets a new deadline for submitting the PPCM and the methane emission baseline for 19 months after the original date. And for the US, we will wait. We are waiting to see a very stringent and enforceable regulation from Biden's administration. I think that Canadian regulation is quite up to date, and it's going to be the role model of regulations. The American one used to be like this one. Actually, they had some better things, like considering differences in the age of how old is the equipment. If you have a compressor with 20 years old, or it is a new one, then you have some flexibility for doing the elders and this kind of things that the Canadian, I'm not sure that they have, but yes, I think that North America is still the leading region. Unfortunately, Mexico and the US, Mexico is struggling to start the regulation, and the US, they lost completely last year, but we are waiting to see what President Biden's administration makes in this year.
Considering that financial institutions are increasingly conditioning their economic support, do you think companies' compliance with net zero is more a punishment or an incentive?
I will say that at least for the oil and gas industry, it is a benefit. It is an incentive, because we are talking about hydrocarbon that is being wasted, right? Correcting emissions in at least in methane, it has an economic value that it is immediately monetized. So yes, I think it's an incentive. And a punishment, it could be for CO2 or other kind of emissions, because they need to invest to correct something in the environment, right? For those companies that their view just is limited to the financial number and the price of the stock of the company stock in the financial system. Of course, they can just view like this, but we have, I will say, more than a decade with very important limits to this kind of only financial objective, where stakeholders are looking for more sustainability and this kind of stuff. So I think that everybody has for now a long time looking for reducing emissions. So I would say that it is an incentive, not a punishment.
Why is it essential for the public and private sectors to implement regulations and remedies for fugitive methane emissions?
Okay, it is super hyper essential because the planet is in biggest challenge in human history. By the World Economic Forum, they identify global warming, and as this is the most probable, you know, when you are estimating a risk, you have probability or likelihood and the consequence. For the probability, they have this this rank, which what risk has more probability. The most probable is a global warming, right? And the one with worse consequences is the lack of action of humanity, right, for global warming. These are the number one risks in the World Economic Forum 2021, this risk assessment that they make year by year. So the risk is the multiplication of these two numbers. So the thing is this one. The public and the private need to take action now, because now this is the most important risk. This is why all companies, starting from the majors and then the big ones and now medium ones, everybody is signing the net zero goals for 2050.
Marco, thank you very much for sharing these insights and information with us. Of course, it is very important to acknowledge the importance of gas for our daily lives, and of course for this transition. So I don't know, would you like to add something else?
Well, thank you. Just to say thank you to Energy Capital, and to you, Anna. It's very nice to collaborate with your publication. Please stay close to our social media, because we have this new firm that it is specialized only in net zero, in methane emissions. We are a larger group of companies, but this is going to be our chess horse, you know, our key strategy for this important challenge for the oil and gas sector.